nobody even cared. I was up for nights working on this thing. I was giving the pep talk. At the same time, I was crashing out. I was crying. But when I worked on like the logo, I remember then it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was like it was the happiest I'd been doing something. Over time, I had to actually believe that what I'm doing was important. Without the applause, like I had to get comfortable with this is what I'm building and this is why it matters, whether you think it matters or not. Thank you very much for your opinion.
Welcome everyone to the Many Roads podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya, and I'm excited to have with me today uh, the founder of Soplugged, it's a community, it's a meeting point, it's a marketplace, it's a bunch of things with the sole purpose of giving Black Canadian businesses an expression. And I'm excited to have with me today Nina Barango. So welcome, Nina, to the Many Roads podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, welcome, Nina. Funny enough, I've always, of course, known about you and So Plugged, and I've followed you guys for a couple of years now. But I think a couple of months ago, February actually, February of this year, you had an event in Ottawa,
Yes.
and I saw a creator who had posted about how she didn't want to. She had registered to go to the event, but I think the day of the event she didn't want to go because she was tired or something. Something happened, but she ended up finding her way to the event, and she was like, she's a Raven fan essentially. She was like, this, I needed to be here. I had so many questions and I got the answers I needed. And she just got so much, like, she was so excited that I was like, hey, like, okay, I need to go back and see what So Plug is up to now,
Yeah. I think she came from Hamilton or something, and the event was in Ottawa or something like that. And I
Wow.
was so shocked. I was like, why would you drive all the way?
I mean, it just goes to show that there's so much value that you and your organization are giving to people. So kudos to you on that. But let's start the conversation from here. People might look at you today and say, "Oh, Nina's kind of been in this space of entrepreneurship and business, um, you know, for the last couple of years. Was this always the plan?"
No. I was having this conversation with my friend the other day, and she was like, and I was telling her how like all this plans we have for Super and how far we've come. And she was just like, all of this wouldn't be happening if you didn't just start the directory when you did. And it was so interesting because in 2021, when we launched the directory, it's something I'd been thinking about since 2020, even before the pandemic. There was that whole BLM thing going on, and like people, I for one started like really thinking about my realities as a Black person and like what life is, and thinking about my values as an individual. And I started thinking, well, honestly, if nobody's gonna like support Black, it should at least be us supporting our own people. I don't know, maybe it's just the Nigerian in me just being like, it's our own people,
That's
like we
right.
should at least be supporting. And I remember telling my brothers, I have this idea. I just want to like build like a directory, something similar to Amazon. And they were just looking at me like, where did you like? Because the whole time, to give you context, I was such a career person. Like I
Mm,
was on track to like break into marketing. Like I had my career figured out. And at that time, I was living in Ottawa with my brothers, and I went to Toronto. I came back, and all of a sudden, I'm going crazy about this idea to build a directory and like build something similar to Amazon. And they were like, okay, well, maybe not Amazon today, but like maybe we can start with a directory, something just like a listing. And this is Ben, who is now my business partner with Soplugged. And I remember just being like, no, there's a lot of like listings that are just quite frankly ugly. Like they're just like one pager things that you can't even find things. It looks like a newspaper thing. I wanted something that was intuitive. Like, how you can just go on Amazon and you can search for something and like it will
exactly.
pop up. I
Yeah.
was like, like that's what I want. And thankfully, he's a senior front end engineer. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know the title. He codes though, like, and he
Yeah.
does a lot of front end stuff. And like, I remember initially he was dragging his feet with it because Ben, he's like very like analytical. He wants to like make sure everything makes sense. I'm just like a go go go. So I was like, fine, take your time. I'm gonna hop on this thing, figure out how to code or like design something and put something together myself. And It was so ugly. Let me tell you, it was so ugly. But I think it showed them how serious I was about it. And eventually, after so many iterations, like we launched a directory, but like nobody signed up. Like nobody wanted to be on the directory. Nobody just like they just felt like, oh, it's a free thing. You're just listing businesses. What's the point? Um, and honestly, like I still wasn't like a business minded person. I was just like I had my day job, I had other stuff I liked to do on the side. And even though I had made that pivot in my personal life to, start buying black, start like supporting black owned businesses or shopping black more, I didn't think it was going to be a business. And even though I was drawing a lot of parallels to the intuitiveness of Amazon's app, I didn't really think, Soplugged would be anything close to what it is today. But that's how we started. At first, we had like maybe five businesses there. And over time, which probably we'll unpack later on,
Yeah.
um, we've kind of come to where we are now.
That's amazing. It sounds, I mean, looking back now, it sounds like, oh yeah, this was always gonna work out, right? But can you talk about like in the process of that and you building that first iteration of it and like no one's on there? Like can you talk about the feeling and dealing with all of that?
So everybody talks about like, finding your purpose. And I think that's really the main point of this, the Many Words podcast, right? Talking about fulfillment in life.
Yeah.
And I won't lie, when, I was working on the first thing, I was so excited. I felt like I finally know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, even though I don't exactly know how it will pan out. But I was so excited and I thought everybody was excited because, my friends were like, "Oh, that thing you're doing! Wow, that thing you're doing!" And everybody kept, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing a thing." I didn't even have the language. But then the day we launched, like maybe two people, I was so defeated. I remember I went to my brother. I started crashing out in real time. I was just like, nobody even cares. Like I was up for nights working on this thing, Like I know it's ugly, but like at least like this is such a novel idea that can only go up from here. Like I was giving the pep talk. But at the same time, I was crashing out. I was crying, and he was just looking at me, and he was just like, "Can you relax? It's just the first day." And I was like, "What do you mean? People sell out on the first day of launching things, and here am I, like it's even free, like you don't even have to pay." And he just kept looking at me like I was crazy, and maybe I was a bit crazy that day, but like when you're so excited about bringing something to life that you think everybody will have the same
Yeah.
reaction. I'm not gonna lie, for the first 2 years we didn't have up to maybe 30 businesses on there. In fact, there was a time I was like, I'm going to start manually adding businesses myself because, like,
Mm.
what's the point? Like, if the goal is to connect people to Black-owned businesses, let me help. Let me help the people that clearly don't want to help themselves. So we would do so many things, just random things, posting on social media, add your directory, you get this, you get that. I didn't even know like whether they would get it or not. My thing was just, I felt like there was nobody there and it made me start to doubt my stuff. And so like my only next solution was to like just drive, drive, drive. Um, and again, I was still working my full-time job, so it didn't matter to me that Soplugged at that time didn't even have any clear path to profit. We then even launched merch, which was just me, just like I was honestly, now looking back, it felt like I was just shooting in the dark. Like now I'm doing this thing, I'm trying to help these people, I'm trying to like build a structure that helps small businesses, but I don't even know what you need and I don't even know what I can give you, but I'm just going to do anything. So we started selling merch. Obviously, my friends bought, some people, friends of friends bought, but even that we were losing money. But then again, I didn't care that much. What I even cared most was like, oh, let the public see that like this thing is growing. And it didn't start growing until last year. Like now our directory has like 200 and something businesses,
Wow.
but like I don't even know how, like, because it was literally at the point where I just stopped focusing on the directory. I was like, let me look for something else to do. Like so many times I contemplated just like closing it down. I was just like, since you guys, and especially because after COVID stuff started like dwindling down, BLM stuff also started dwindling down. People didn't really care that much anymore. We weren't locked up in the house anymore. So, you know, um, so I also just felt like, let me just go back to my career and let me just focus on it. But like, when you've tasted passion and like the how it like fuels you, that feeling wouldn't leave me. And so I remember just talking to my brother, like, okay, like, what else can we do to help business owners if we're really trying to stay true to this mission? I know it doesn't feel like things are moving. I felt like I had a point to prove, but at some point I was just like, okay, clearly, like, I haven't proved this point. Maybe I can just do other stuff that
Mm.
makes me happy instead of thinking of what are the things that people are expecting me to do or what success looked like for other people at that time. And then, we hosted our first, oh, sorry, we launched our paid services. We started building websites for businesses. I started doing social media management for some businesses. And it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't like getting there. Like we probably have like two clients a year. And like I was just like, oh, this is clearly not it. Like this cannot be like this whole business thing that everybody's talking about. And I was still, my brother was working full time. I was working full time. I was growing in my career, mind you. I finally got into tech. I was a marketing manager. Like I was doing things. So I was just like, well, if this doesn't work, at least,
I have
I
a
have my
backup.
full time job. I have a full time job. And my parents didn't even like rate it. Like my dad just like, oh, so how about your project that you're doing? Oh, okay, like is it like charity? Like what is it nonprofit? Like what are you doing? And you know how Nigerian parents can be like
Yeah,
if something is not big, it's not big, and it's honestly not worth their time. So like, there was a lot of discouragement. That's just what I'm trying to explain. But literally in 2023, when we decided to host our very first event, actually no, it was 2022. We decided to host our very first event, and it was in collaboration with my sister-in-law. She has a skincare business, and
mm,
it was on our directory. And I used to work with her unofficially at the time. So I was just like, since we're all about supporting and highlighting and bringing visibility to Black-owned business, what if we did a pop-up with you, and the whole goal would just be to build visibility to your business?
nice.
Because her business was based in Ottawa and I was in Toronto, and I was like, listen, this thing will pop up in Toronto. I know how we are about like niche products and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And we did it, and it was great. Like it was great at that time in my head. I was like, oh, this is big. Like, what do you mean people are coming? People are telling me how they know about me. And you know the thing about people, like they won't tell you the good stuff until they see how far you go. Like they won't
Yeah,
tell you on your first day that you're doing
yeah,
great, even though they know that from the first day. So people were coming up to me and just being like, "Oh yeah, this is great." It was obviously the crowd was also mostly people I knew personally, but it was still good to see people support. And the next year, I was like, "Oh, what if we do another event?" And it's just like networking. Like at that time, every time I went to a networking event, it was very white, or it was just not like something I enjoyed, or it wasn't just talking about stuff that I honestly cared about.
yeah.
And so we did that, and I was like, okay, more people are showing up. The directory started growing on its own, like without us even doing anything. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is great. Um, and I think that same year, 2023, I joined this entrepreneurship program as well because I was like, I'm 2 years deep now. Like I might as well like figure out what I'm doing. And the following year, that year I got laid off as well.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, tech was just going off,
Yeah.
and I was in marketing. I think I got laid off twice that year, and I was in
Wow.
marketing, so we were always like one of the first to go. And I was like, okay, I've done this entrepreneurship program, but I don't feel like Soplugged is in a place where I can just leave my job and like focus on it and just go off. So I got another job which was paying even better, and I was like, okay, maybe this thing is supposed to be the way it is. And I got laid off again.
Oh my God.
I got laid off again. Um, and the thing about losing something that you think it's like your whole life, or losing something, especially when you've been laid off before, when you get laid off again, you already had that fear in you.
Yeah.
And when that fear comes to pass, it's like it's a weird sense of freedom. It's just like, okay, the worst has happened now, like, but I'm still alive. So clearly it's not the worst.
It's only up from here.
It's literally only up from here. Like, so I got laid off again. I also experienced some other forms of loss in my life. And I was just like, you know what? I've literally lost everything I thought was so important. But I still have this business that is still doing some things. People will occasionally tell me how it has helped. And I was just like, I can hold on to this and I can see where it goes, or I can just keep chasing this thing in tech and keep growing, and they'll keep just kicking me out every every opportunity. But keep in mind, my confidence was also taking a hit as well because there's so much of our identities, or my identity at least, that was tied to like what you're doing, how much you're making, where you are. And I know my parents really value that stuff as well. So I didn't tell them that, first of all, I didn't tell them I got laid off for the third time, I think, or the fourth time. I also didn't tell them that I had decided to just like focus on my business
Wow.
and just go off from there. I remember telling my eldest brother that, like, I remember telling him when I got laid off, literally the day, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Actually, don't be sorry. Like, I think like I just need to use this momentum to just like all the anger, all the hurt, all the thing. I just need to just bottle it and throw it into this business and just go." And I did that last year. And let me tell you, like everybody talks about how like, it's exciting to like take the leap and like,
Yeah.
just go for it. The first 2 weeks it was exciting. I was like, yes, I'm working all night, I'm doing all this stuff. The first month I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. We hosted Black Market. It was a huge success. I was like, yes, like this is who I'm supposed to be. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. We made like we made so much that was our highest grossing revenue thing we'd ever done.
Wow.
And like people were telling me how that market changed their business. And I was like, I was writing on all that stuff until I started crashing again. Like I was
Mm.
just like, actually, this is tough. This is difficult. Like, what do you mean I don't have a job anymore? What do you mean like I'm not having to do things every time? I wasn't sleeping. I was just like I was so desperate at that point because I think it hit me that actually like I have no lifelines. Like I had given every all my savings, I had poured it into the business, everything. I was like, if I perish, I perish, like, and I realized actually I'm very close to perishing. Like, what do you mean? And I remember telling my brother, I think I'm going to start looking for another job because, and he was like, oh, I thought you were in this. I thought things were going good. And everybody was saying on the outside that things were looking good
Hmm.
because, like, nobody actually sees like the inside. No matter how I try to like do a day in my life,
Yeah.
I can't possibly like communicate that how difficult things were or things because it's mostly in the mind, it's mostly in your head. Like so my brother was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I thought you just had this like great thing, You're even gearing up for another one. In fact, the deputy prime minister has come this time. What are you talking about? That like things are not going well." I'm like, "See, like this is all packaging. Like on the inside, I'm like, I desperately miss my tech salary. Like, I desperately miss the comfort, like of not approaching my business from a point of do or die, but from a point of this is nice, like." I could do it or I could just go to work. So that was me last year. And then I ended up just burning out because of how much I drove myself to the ground with everything. And I feel like this year, I'm still, I'm still a full-time entrepreneur. But I feel like this year, something that God has really been helping me with is understanding the power of rest and understanding
Mm.
that you cannot. I think there's a place in the Bible that says, how do you want to continue something in the flesh that's started in the spirit? Like you
Exactly.
can't use your own mind. Like we've been saying this thing for a while, not by power, not by strength, but like honestly, it's until you try to use your power and your strength and you burn out and you crash, that you realize actually this is not up to me. So I feel like that has now been my approach this year to just being like, yes, the vision is there, yes, there's the strategy. Now I'm trying to think about things in a business from a business point of view, but also from a rested point of view of
Okay.
like, okay, it's not up to me anymore. Like, I mean, it is to some degree, but like, there's a certain level of trust you need to have both in God, both in the vision and the work you're doing and the value you're providing, and in yourself as well to know that even if I'm not doing 1,000 things, I'm still providing value, and that's enough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's great, man. Honestly, like, your journey is is amazing. I felt like I was watching a movie.
honestly, it feels like that sometimes.
Because like if you told any random person on the street, like, yeah, so I got laid off the first time, got laid off the second time, they'll be like, okay, the third time is not gonna happen. And then the third time happens and it's like, okay, God, like I hear you, I guess. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny, like the day I got laid off, the day I got laid off, I remember like maybe the day before that morning, I was praying, oh, if there's anything in my life that is not aligned with your will, take it out, remove it. And then I go into the office and something in my mind is just telling me something is going to happen today. But I just kept thinking, definitely not. Like this
Mm,
cannot be a live. This was a miracle job. Like the way I even got the job, it was a testimony, literally.
yeah.
What do you mean I'm going to get laid off? And then I got laid off, and then I immediately remembered praying that prayer, and I was like, fair enough. I was like, fair enough, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Nina, it's amazing, and I say this again, that your story is amazing because you can kind of see this consistent diligence in, you know what, like going back to the original plan. Like, okay, so, and you, I think you even mentioned that you said at some point you had to ask yourself, okay, what else do I have left? You know, and it's almost like that essentially that idea of like, okay, so everything is going crazy. This is the one thing I can control, I can kind of work on, so I'm just gonna do that. But I know that in the moment it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that easy. Can you speak to like the your emotional state and how you had to like almost psych yourself up because you know just getting laid off and then you're telling yourself I'm just gonna put all my energy into this. A lot of people might not be able to do that. Can you speak to like what helped you in that season?
Honestly, I don't know what helped me because every time I think about and every time I tell people about like that decision, everybody is just like, okay, and that was your first thought, like to go into a business. Like everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Like
Hmm.
because at that point, Soplugged was just breaking even, like it
Yeah.
was just doing enough to pay for itself in that I didn't need to like constantly, but if I wanted to do something, I would still need to put money down first. And I think at that point I had experienced so much loss, you know, in life of things that I held so dearly to me that slowly I didn't realize it then, but God had slowly been teaching me how to trust. And I think it was that trust in God, honestly, that helped me because literally the year before, I had lost my job more than once. I had lost my relationship that I
Hmm.
thought, oh, this is the one. I had just, I was like I had hit rock bottom the year before.
Yeah.
And so this loss of job, the third time, I've honestly lost track. But in the year that I took Soplugged full time, losing my job just before that, it felt like I've gone through worse and I've come out before. So surely, like, there's nothing here that would swallow me whole because I have genuinely tasted like losing
Yeah.
and I came out. So maybe that was also that mindset of just what's the worst that can happen when the worst has already happened before. And
See.
and I think that's the way they say it in Pidgin, but I don't remember how to say it now. But I think that was the mindset that took me through it. And so even when I'm saying that, there were times where I was in it and I was just screaming, "Oh God, this cannot be it!" Like I feel like my end is near. Like I will always remember that. Like you've honestly gone through worse before and you've come out alive, and that's what I held on to for the most part.
Yeah, that's great. It's so much resilience that it must have taken to just be like, you know what? I'll just go for this. I'll try this again. Now, Nina, I wanna. Okay, I have two questions in my head right now. I want to go back a little bit. You said there was something you said that just like sparked a sort of a bomb in my head. You said, you can't go back once you've tasted passion. Uh, can you talk about the passion that you feel from doing the thing that you're doing now versus like you could have had an okay life in tech. I mean, yeah, I mean, but like the passion wouldn't have been the same. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that passion?
Yeah, no, definitely. So before the first idea for Supla came to my mind, I honestly used to hear a lot of people talking about how they found their purpose, how they have something they're passionate about. Most of them, when they're talking about it, going to be a ministry of some sort, but they're doing something very noble. And but
Yeah.
like you will still hear the passion. And so for a long time, I just thought, okay, maybe this is something that only a select few get to,
Mm,
enjoy. Um, and then the day I got the idea for soap, like I was literally in the shower. Like I was just like, this is so, so random. But honestly, if you know me, that's how my life is most like for the most part, it's very random things that happen. But when I worked on like the logo, when I worked on like that very first like somebody actually showed it to me the other day and I was like, this is wild, this is so ugly. Like, but like I remember then it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was like
Wow.
the most like it was the happiest I'd been doing something. I'm not a morning person, but I'll wake up in the morning and just jump on it and
Mm,
just like, and at the same time, like I said, I was working. I'll go to work, I'll do a good job, I'll do what I'm meant to do, but like you couldn't pay me. Like in fact, I wasn't even getting paid to do Soul Plug, but I was still doing it. And with
mhm,
all the pay they were giving me at that time, you couldn't pay me to have that same joy. And the more I thought about it, even though I didn't have language to explain how this is a business, how this will go, if you had asked me then, okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I would have probably said something like something that's not even close to where we are now. But the passion I tasted was just being excited to wake up every morning and work on this thing. That was
mhm,
it. Like being excited to talk about it, even though I would probably be all over the place. I'll go around in circles and be like, okay, well, my idea was this. This is where we are. We're not seeing traction yet, but I think if we're able to do, like, I would be so excited to just yap about it all day. But most importantly, I'll be excited to like pour into it. Like everything I had would go into it. Like this thing wasn't giving me anything back apart from just excitement. And it's something that if you don't know, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Like you can't fake it, you can't buy it, you can't tell somebody, okay, give me your passion, let me do it. It will
mhm.
never translate.
Yeah,
And so that's what I tasted in the early days, that no matter how scrappy it looked, no matter how nobody was sending it initially, I was just like, there's something here. And like, even if it doesn't become this very big thing, there's something like I'm getting from it. That excitement, that joy, that sense of fulfillment and purpose. Like, but then I will also sometimes catch myself gaslighting myself, like, It's not even that all that,
mm, yeah,
because it was small then. And so it's easy to just be like, maybe there's going to be something else, and maybe this will lead to it. But like over time, I've just seen that it was a seed and it was growing. And even though it looked small then, it was still from a place of passion and from a place of purpose as well. So yeah.
exactly. I think it was Alex Hormozy that said this. He was talking about how successful people have to go through this phase where they're building something and like they're excited about it and there's like no traction and there's like no interest or there's little to none, right? And but he was saying how those periods are so important in every entrepreneur's like journey because eventually when you get to the quote unquote mountaintop, the place of success, it's the lessons that you learned in those seasons that really helped you, right? So now that Soplugged is doing a whole lot better and you guys are making so much impact, have you seen some of like the lessons and some of the things that you learned in that season kind of translate over? Like, does it help?
No, it does, because I did this video on my Instagram one day, and I was telling people how I hosted an event and only two people showed up.
Oh my God.
And and this was very, like, this event was this year, by the way. And people were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I'm so, please just know that there's value in what you're doing. And in my head, I giggled a bit because, like, obviously it hurt me, but I was like, "Ugh, this is not the first time I'm doing something that." In my head, I was just like, I giggled a bit because I was just like, if only you knew how many times I've done stuff and people just didn't care, and how that didn't make me feel like, or instantly, like, obviously it hurts, don't get me wrong, I will never downplay the hurt of business, I will never downplay the hurt of like people letting you down, but I feel like those early days taught me to like believe in this thing I'm doing, even if nobody is clapping, even if, in fact, because there's a difference between nobody clapping and people actively telling you this thing you're doing is rubbish. Like my friend that told me, "Wow, if you hadn't started then, you won't be here now." She was part of the people that when I told them my initial idea for Super, no shade, by the way,
Yeah.
but she was part of the people that they were just like, "This thing doesn't make any sense." Like, tell us exactly how you're going to make money,
Money,
because this
exactly.
thing doesn't. You're saying this is a business. This is not. In fact, what had happened then, it was like they had now highlighted people that had tried to do something similar and just kind of shut it down after a few months. They're like, okay, this thing you're saying isn't what this person said they were going to do, and now where is it? And that thing hurt me. Like, you can tell, I still remember it till today. That was like
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago. And I was just like, they're right. So they're actually right. Like, What do you mean, like, you want to start a directory? Like, obviously, the directory. Where could, in fact, they were not like, okay, maybe if you get enough traffic on your site, you can run ads, or maybe if there are enough people, you can get. So today, I haven't run any ads. Like, brands are paying me, like, on my website to
Yeah.
say this is how I'm monetizing this thing. It has just remained a free thing. Um, but then, like, those things would like eat at me. They would get at me, and over time, I had to actually believe that what I'm doing was important. What I'm doing made sense, whether or not I was hearing. Now, if I go out, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I love what you're doing," and I love to hear it. Don't get me, because I store it in my bank for the days I'm low,
I like
But
that.
it's just like fuel. But it doesn't mean that the car is not meant to work. Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
without the applause, like, I had to get comfortable with this is what I'm building and this is why it matters. Whether you think it matters or not, thank you very much for your opinion. But it doesn't mean that all of a sudden, like, what I've been doing, what I've been working on is obviously not important anymore. So I feel like that's the biggest lesson. It also taught me to do more with less. So I remember last year being the first time we got like this $10,000 grant from the government. All of a sudden I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, 10,000. Now if you give me 10,000, I'll just be like, are you insulting me? Like, like, obviously this is small money, but then it was so much to me. But after, like, I had to also remember that I had been doing more with like zero, like with 100. Like, I used to always tell my friends that, like, if I really want to do something now, like, I don't need to have money in the account. Like, I can still like pull on what I have in my hand. But it was also very easy for me to just be like, it's also very easy to be like, oh no, I've gotten to a status, I've seen my revenue, I've seen what I've like, if it's not this, it's not that. But like, I genuinely had to also learn how to do more with little. And that mindset has really shaped how I've approached, for example, managing our finances, being
Exactly.
sustainable. I'm doing a lot, like making impact, but like not breaking it. But sometimes you break the bank, don't get me wrong. Oh.
Yeah.
Like, when there's money in the bank account, it allows you to do a lot more and a lot better. Don't get me wrong. But it shouldn't erase the fact that you are able to do a lot with a little as well.
Those are two outstanding, like, I guess, takeaways from that season. Because I'm also thinking about how, like, going back to your first point, how it's like, you learn these lessons, and you know, of course, there's some sort of, like, I wouldn't call it heartbreak, but there's quote unquote rejection that you get from ideas not panning out the way you expected them to. And, I mean, like, I want you to talk about how you had to separate, like, your personal outlook of yourself versus, like, these are business results.
Mm,
Because as entrepreneurs, there's this thing we do where we tend to think we are the business, and on some level we are, and then we start to internalize, like, the business results as personal failures. Like, can you talk about how we have to kind of separate those?
honestly, I kind of like therapy has been helping me in that aspect. But it actually happened in reverse for me. What taught me that lesson? It was when I felt personally I wasn't doing well, but I kept seeing the business doing so much more that I realized actually it's very possible that we could be operating in separate planes. Like, I could be having the worst time and just like everything in my personal life just doesn't feel like it's working out. But Soplugged on its own would just be doing things that I would just be like, oh, okay, like, I guess go girl, like, do you. But it doesn't mean that that's me 100% of the time. It's like a fluid thing. Like, some days I wake up and I feel like me and this business were joined at the hip. If it's happening to me, it's happening to my business. And some days I feel so separated from it that it's
Yeah.
healthy. um, but honestly, therapy really helped me understand that this is something I created. Like, if you cook food and the food is not sweet, does that mean you are not a sweet person? I think that's how my therapist explained it to me, and I was like, actually, that kind of makes so much sense. Like, if I created this business and the business in this season, because everything again in life is in seasons as well.
That's
If my
right.
business in this season is not doing well, does that mean me I'm a failure? Or it just means I created a business that is currently failing. I can tomorrow create another business that, because you also see this with super wealthy and successful people like Beyonce or Rihanna. Like, sometimes they create products that fail. Nobody automatically thinks Beyonce is a failure. Like, they just think, oh, that her brand failed.
Build exactly.
And and we go to sleep, you know. And so I started, even when I'm talking to myself, I'm just like, oh, actually, Soplugged is not doing well right now, but me, I'm doing fantastic. Like, and this is how I think I can maybe fix things, or this is how I think maybe I'm not equipped to fix it, and this I'm going to bring this person to fix it, because it's not only me that can fix it, or only me. And I think that's another aspect of that mindset as well, because by the time you so internalize everything, then you think, if it's not me that would do it, then it's nobody. And it's honestly this year that I've started working with people outside of my circle, just being like, oh, I have this idea, and I think you have the skill to bring it to life. You know, I've started like, because if you're separating yourself from your business, then you're also seeing yourself as who you are, and seeing your business as what it is, and seeing what you need. You know, so that also helps you delegate. That also helps you leverage other people's strengths where you are weak, and that honestly also helps you sleep better at night. Yeah.
Okay, so Nina, that's awesome advice. I want to kind of piggyback off of something you just said. You are now in this season where you're able to like delegate and reach out to people and sort of like collaborate, partnerships, whatever. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, for lack of better words, trusting people with their babies, you know, because they kind of feel like, oh, I need to be in control. And you've just said, like, you partner with people because you're like, hey, you can probably do that better than I can. Come help me. Can you talk about how important that is, especially as you're growing now?
And so somebody asked me this question the other day, and she asked me, how she put the question was, what made it easy for me to delegate? And I told her, having money makes it easy to delegate, because then you're able to afford the people that you can't question their expertise. Because I used to be very, I'm in so many ways, I'm a type A. Like, if it's not me doing something, I honestly don't rate it. But I started understanding that there are people that are experts at this thing, that even me, I know that I don't hold like towards, like, close to what they're doing. And looking at things I want to do, like I mentioned last year, I was so burnt out because I was doing everything by myself. Ben, my brother that works with me, that runs Soplugged with me, he was getting married. And so, like, for like half the year, his mind was not even close. Like, he was just like, I don't, yeah, business is great, but I have a wedding. Like, those are two different. And so, like, he was basically most, for the most year, hands off. And so, in that thought of, oh, I can't trust my business to anybody. If it's not me and if it's not Ben, nobody else
Mm,
can touch it. I started doing everything myself. Like, I would have events, big events, and I would be the one doing everything. Um, and I would be so, it would take me like 2 weeks to recover, and I would just be like, it's the growing pains, it's entrepreneurship. I used to wear it as like a badge of pride, like,
mm,
at least I'm down to earth, I can do everything. One day he was just like, you can get people to do this stuff for you, you know. And I'm not going to lie, I did try, and they will let you down. People will always let you down. That's the truth. You need to
yeah.
actually give grace in expectation that this person will let you down. And obviously, the first time I tried to, the person just totally dropped the ball, and I was just like, "Do you see? This is why I do everything myself." So it was a self-fulfilling thing. I was just like, "This is exactly." And so immediately, I didn't even let the ball land on the ground. I just grabbed it, and I kept doing what I had to do. And then, I started like studying other people that I look up to that are also successful. And I started saying that even though they didn't go and hire the whole world, they hired like key people that had certain things, like certain strengths, certain expertise, skills that they did, that maybe they had, but not to that level. Or maybe they had to that level, but they had other areas they needed to focus on, that nobody else truly could do. For example, strategy. Like, so that's how I started looking at my business. If there's something I can do, but I'd rather spend time doing something else that would probably help me 10 times more than this other thing. For example, I recently started outsourcing a lot of our designs for a lot of the projects we're doing. Typically, like I said from the beginning, it's probably me that will just jump into Figma, because I kind of self-taught myself with a lot of design tools, and do something, and it will take me days, weeks, months, as opposed to this person that can do it in like 2 weeks, 5 days, and wrap it up. Meanwhile, that time I would have spent, I would be thinking about, oh, how can we partner with this? What's our vision? How can we execute? Having more meetings that way. So what has really helped me is when I study people that are truly successful, like, I can see the success, not like LinkedIn talk, and I see, and I see the systems they're setting in place,
Mm.
I try to emulate that system because somebody was saying that the reason like a lot of black people or people from underrepresented communities are not able to build generational wealth or build like scalable things is because they don't have systems. They just have them. They just
Mm.
have them, marketer, CEO, sales, tech, and that was me for the longest time. I just had me and then my brother. Both of us combined. There's some things we cannot do. We can never do. But we just felt like, okay, we have to do it ourselves. We have to learn. So I'll be, there was time I started teaching myself how to code. And I was just like, from where to where? Like, truly, like, I had no business doing this. But because I felt like I had to do everything myself, but
Yeah.
that's not how you grow. That's not how you build success. That's not how you become, Bill Gates. Or those people, they don't even know what's happening most of the time in the business. And so I feel like in this year, now that I'm really leaning into resting, really leaning into my strengths. I'm now having to lean on people, but not just anybody, please, because it's still a situation of I can't just trust my baby with anybody. So it's someone that I know you have expertise. I've seen your expertise I've seen it working. I've seen different people you've used. I'm also like kind of finding people from my circle, people that they've worked with and they're recommending. I think that's a great place to start for anybody that used to be like me, struggling. If you can't trust your friends' recommendation, then why are you friends with them? Do you get
Facts.
like? So I've started like really leaning on. If my friend says this person they worked with the person and it was good, I'm probably most likely going to work with them on my next project. But honestly, money is important because these days you need to pay people their worth as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's also a very key part that like is not nice to overlook as well when we're thinking about delegation.
Yeah. So essentially, like, delegate as much as you can so you free up yourself to do the actual important things. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, the thing is, someone might be watching this and maybe they're like a new entrepreneur, and like you said, the money is going to be important to get to go with this strategy. But maybe they're just starting out in their journey and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I delegate? How do I not burn out? But I don't have the funds. I don't have the money. Like, is there any advice you can give in that aspect of things?
yeah. My brother makes this joke about me that I know how to gather upcoming talent. But basically, I'm not shade to them at all. Like, but upcoming talent means basically you're good at what you do, but you're not blown. You
Yeah.
get like people are not aware of your
Hmm.
capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Those are great people to work with in the early days. Now, the thing with that though is because obviously, and I also think about it as peer to peer working. Like we're all on, like if we're all on the same level, we're all just starting out. You just started photography. You just started learning how to code. Okay, let's all work together. My work will help you build your portfolio. Your
That's
work will
right.
help me build my business and this other person's as well. And that's honestly the key to because let's delegate to people with expertise, but also have an eye for people that they're on their way to the expertise. They
Yeah.
just need people, they just need trust, you just need. And so what I now did when I used to work with a lot of people that, maybe they just came to Canada for bad example, maybe they just came to Canada, they're still figuring out the Canadian ways to do things. I was just like, okay, these are growing pains, if you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to accommodate your lack of finesse or
Mm.
your
Yeah.
lack of this and like you taking a bit longer to work on things that an expert will have taken a bit shorter. So and also AI, like hello, like
Ooh. Okay.
it's free. Like honestly, it's free and honestly, even if you wanted to pay, it's cheaper, it's way, way, way cheaper than any other thing on the
Yeah.
market. So that's something literally and there's so many people. If you want to find the use of LinkedIn, it's people sharing how they use AI to make their lives easy. They'll share all the prompts, all the guides, all the
Yeah.
things, use all that stuff. But honestly, AI can also never really replace humans. So find upcoming talent around you. They're in your church, they're in your friend circles. Like, I used to have this friend that at the time, he really wanted to go into like photography and things. So I was like, okay, well, I have a lot of stuff I'm doing. Are you down to like work together? You know, I mean, and he's so much, and the cool thing about that is they get so much better at their craft
Exactly.
from working on it with you. And you can take that as I play a huge role in this person's, skill development because if nobody else is giving them a chance, for example, because you know how it is, nobody will give you a chance. Like I'm saying now, I won't give people a chance unless my friend is recommending them. But
Hmm.
back in the day, like, okay, you don't have anybody speaking on your behalf, but I've seen a couple of the things you've worked on. I'm like, okay, there's something here. Maybe with just a bit more guidance from me, you'll be able to do something better. That's also delegation as well, because yes, guidance is 20%, but you're doing 80%. So I'm resting or I'm doing other stuff that 80% that I'm doing it myself.
Yeah, that's great, Nina. And you touched on, I guess, something that this whole, like your answer to that last question is also a major theme that I see in Soplugged, and it's like networking and it's, connecting with people. When you were building this business and initially started from a place of, oh, yes, we're just building a directory, did you always have the events and the networking in mind as well? Or was that like a subsequent, like, discovery?
It was very, very subsequent.
Wow.
To be honest, people think I'm an extrovert. I'm not.
Wow.
So the networking came from the point of like directory during the pandemic. People were inside and people were looking for stuff online. A lot of people were giving a lot of talk around how they wanted to support Black, how they want to buy Black, but they don't know how to find. And so that was what the directory was solving, helping people find and connect with Black owned businesses. But then when they lifted the lockdown restrictions and everybody wanted to be outside, everybody now it shifted from connecting online to connecting in person because all of a sudden, after spending 3 years in your house, you don't have any social skills. You don't. Your friends have probably moved because everybody moved to the most remote places because it was cheaper, and now you don't know anybody in your backyard. And
Yeah.
so it was like, okay, how do we bring people together? Because when you bring people together, they will talk about what they're doing, what they like, what they're interested in, and that was also like part of the problem we were trying to solve. Like, if we really want to make you as a Black entrepreneur visible, you start first where people are. You bring yourself to where you think you can connect with people that will be interested in what you're doing, and then you talk about it, and that's how you find new business, you find new clients, you find new people to work with. So that was how the networking part came to be. But no, what nobody told me was that putting events is actually very expensive. Like, I thought initially that, oh, this is great. This is something great to do. It could also be another source of revenue for the business. It became our highest source of expenses, like just putting that together. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about like sometimes even when the math doesn't make sense, if you don't believe in what you're doing, it'll be easy to just shut it down or start to create an experience that doesn't really achieve the goal of like why you started doing this in the first place. And so I remember people would come to my events and they'd be like, oh, this was so valuable. Like that lady that came all the way from Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then some people would be like, well, surely you didn't make any profit. Maybe you should start charging tickets $100,
Mm,
150, like other people. Because there's some networking events that the ticket is $160, $200. And I'm like, can we all be serious? Like, no, like if that's your calling, do you love?
yeah.
But like, I just feel like that was not the point for us. Like,
Mm,
if I really wanted to generate revenue, it's even better for me not to do the event at all.
at
Because
all.
what they're not telling you is that even I'm charging 150, like because I'm charging 150, now in my head I have to offer you 150 worth of value. 150 worth
Exactly.
of value probably cost me 1,500 per person. So it's like, where do we now go from here? Are we really all about passing the cost on, or are we really all about providing value for people to connect and make meaningful relationships that move their business forward? So that's where networking came from. That's where the markets came from because markets were kind of subsequent to networking as well. Because it's like, okay, you've met people, you've listened to panels, you've talked, talk, 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 talk. Now, why don't you do? Why don't you take action? Why don't you sell? Why don't you put yourself in a place where you probably would have never connected with these people? Like our market that we hosted at Start last year,
Yeah.
somebody came from Nova Scotia and
Whoa.
she was like, yeah. And she was like, I knew I had to be here because I would never be able to connect with this crowd on a normal day in Nova Scotia.
That's
Like,
true.
Toronto audience is totally different from Nova Scotia audience. And so
Hmm.
it's about giving them that opportunity. Like, these are high foot traffic areas. And even if they are not, we can bring the traffic for you. Now your job is just to sell. You've learned from panels, you've connected with people. Now, how do you put that into practice and actually generate revenue for your business as a business owner? So everything is kind of subsequent to like the last thing that came before it. And that's honestly how we've grown so far.
Yeah. That's amazing, it's almost like it's a recurring theme in your journey where it's like you do what you feel like you need to do, and then a new door opens up, and then you walk through it, and then another door opens up, right?
Literally. Literally.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Let's switch gears here, Nina, quickly. I want to talk about Black entrepreneurs, and I know you're passionate about Black entrepreneurs. From your perspective, and I'm sure you have a lot of conversations with Black entrepreneurs across Canada, from your perspective, what are still some of the biggest hindrances that we're facing?
Mm. Honestly, we need to rate ourselves more because what happens when you start to rate yourself is that people start to rate you. I know the easiest answer would have been to say people don't rate us,
Mm,
but people don't rate us because we don't rate ourselves,
mm,
and we're not showing up as people that believe in ourselves. And beyond that, we don't have systems. We don't have infrastructure in place. Everything is still coming from a place of charity, support me, help me,
mm.
you know, when you I was having this conversation and this lady was like, oh, if my friends are not buying from me, then and I was just like, as a business owner, if you want your friends to be your only customers, you've already failed. Like
Yeah.
no, your business is not viable. Like
Hmm.
because the goal should be that people that don't know me,
Exactly.
when I truly knew that Soplugged was growing, was when people I didn't know were attending things, were reaching out, were asking. Like that's when I was like, okay, I've totally broken out of this stratosphere of my local championship, and
Yeah.
I'm now like beyond. Like
Mm.
so, I feel like we still think from a very small place. And I don't, to a certain extent, it's not our fault. But again, we're adults. So we need to still take responsibility because it's our business. And, you know, what does rating yourself look like? It means being excellent at what you do, showing up with your best foot forward always, thinking about your brand, thinking about what you're building. To be fair, you see a lot of people, they're still stuck at that. Oh, this started as a hobby, so I'm not really sure.
Mm.
I just named it. And even the naming, you're not even thinking about, okay, to be honest, when I launched Soplugged, the naming, I still tell people that like Soplugged is going to rebrand one day and like the name is going to be our global name and everything. Because to be honest, when I started, and I've shared that here as well, when I started, I wasn't thinking from a business mindset. I wasn't thinking from an entrepreneur. I was just thinking from a this will be nice to do. Like this
Yeah.
is missing. Let's do it. And yes, a lot of people start there and they remain there. It's fine to start there because no, you don't know what you don't know, and you won't know until you start. But when you realize where you are, when you realize your potential, and you should be realizing your potential, you should give yourself the permission to go beyond where you were, where you started. And you give yourself the permission to like let loose of all those early stage, mediocrity that a lot of people just allow to permeate their business because and that's why, a lot of black businesses remain at that kitchen table stage of, oh, I started this thing in my house, I'm still doing it in my house. I'm still small. Oh no, I don't want to do too much. It's just I just started it for fun, and my friends were buying it. So okay, your friends were buying it, great, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. How are you positioning yourself for other markets and like global markets? How are you positioning yourself beyond your city, beyond Canada, beyond North America? Because there are people that are doing it with like products that don't even make that much sense. And here you are, you've created a masterpiece, but you're not allowing yourself to believe that it's a masterpiece because again, people will say, oh, imposter syndrome and all that stuff. The problem is that you're scared that people will take it too serious. And then you have to consistently show up,
Wow.
in a great way. That's another way to look at, and that's how I look at imposter syndrome. Like, yes, acknowledge your feelings and all of that. But a side of it that we don't talk about is that we're scared that people will actually be like, oh, you're doing something. And it happened to me when people started being like, oh, you're doing something. I started to like shy away. I started to be like, not too much now. It's just because I was still in that mindset of
Yeah.
like, I just started something nice. But the more I stayed in that mindset, the more nothing grew. It was until, I had to be like, okay, this thing is here I need to bet on it and I need to take it serious. I need to take myself serious.
Mhm.
Like to acknowledge the fact that so funny at my most recent event, someone that used went to school to me, with me, she was like, "But it's so funny to see you do something so serious because you used to be such a class clown back in the day." And I was like, I paused and I was like, "You're so right." But like, I had to break out of that mentality of
Mm.
like class clownery because if you keep thinking you're a clown, people will keep laughing. Like, there's nothing funny. This
Ooh.
is business. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to like. I'm here to do business, and this is why I believe that what I'm doing is valuable. Because the truth is, white people that are doing, in fact, not even white people. When you talk to startup founders, because I worked in the startup world a lot, somebody will be doing the bare minimum of the bare minimum and add tech behind it. And all of a sudden, they have the audacity of 1,000 men and they're going and they're going. This thing they're doing, this product, that's why there's so many layoffs because the
Yeah.
product had no basis, it had nothing, it had no substance.
Mm.
But because they've convinced themselves that this thing I'm doing makes sense. They're able to convince the whole world. In fact, they're even able to convince investors to give them
To
money.
get the
So how
money.
much more you that is actually doing something, you're making a product that is actually solving a real problem, and how dare you not be confident in what you're building?
Mm.
That's mediocrity. That's even pride in another way. So I just feel like we need to start taking ourselves a bit more seriously. We need
Yeah.
to start believing because if you don't believe in what you're doing, then what's the point? Why are you wasting everybody's time? You might as well not be doing it. So my mom used to always say, what's worth doing is worth doing well.
That's
And I've
right.
taken that mindset into everything I've done. To just say, if I'm doing it, it might as well be well. Yes, it will cost money. Yes, you will lose money in the early stages. Yes, but it's because you're going somewhere. And by the time you're able to remain diligent in that process, you're going to get somewhere. And then all that money you lost, then it won't phase you anymore because now you're at a stage where you're doing times 10 of that. And it's all because you remain diligent to say, I started here doesn't mean I have to remain here. I
That's
have
right.
places I'm going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, Nina, would you say this might sound a little bit controversial, so forgive me, and for anyone who's watching or listening, forgive me. Just take this with a grain of salt.
Don't
Would
cancel him.
you, please don't cancel me, Joe. Would you would you say that victim mentality that a lot of people in our community seem to have, would you say it also plays a part into this idea of not being confident and not rating ourselves?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, See, that thing starts with the mind and mental slavery. Before what's his face was cancelled, Kanye, he used to talk about it a lot, mental
Mm,
slavery and how it plays black people. The truth is there's a proverb that says if you tie an elephant to a tree
mm,
for 100 years or 100 months, whatever how many years that is, and one day you take off the rope that elephant will remain there because in his mind, he's still tied to the tree. So
mm.
until you break free from whatever form of whatever you think you're the victim of,
Yeah,
until you break free from that to say, okay, even if you accept that, okay, I'm a victim, it doesn't mean I can't do things. Do you get?
yeah.
That's another way to look at it. If let's say you don't want to be doing the mind work of, there's a lot of mind work. They call it shadow work, I think, on TikTok. But like, there's a lot of mental strength you need to come out of victim mentality. To stop saying, "Oh, yes, I'm small," but it's because these people did not. It's because those people, because remember when I was saying that people didn't sign up for the directory initially, I could have just been like, okay, nobody signed up. In fact, I could have done something big, but you people did not, and I could have stayed there,
Yeah.
and just be like, okay, I'm not doing it again. But and I think that also comes from a place of not understanding your why. A lot of people don't know their why, and
Mm,
so they're not able to fight. They're not able to fight for it. They're not able to change, like pull things down to say, okay, yes, I'm here, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and so I will try another way. I'll try
mm,
another way. They're not down for that because they just feel like, okay, this thing was all fun and games when I started. So which one is that? Like I have to now, like if people are doing it, then I guess that's where I'm supposed to be.
yeah.
So I think overcoming that mindset, especially in business, comes from knowing your why, understanding where you're going. Because you can see where somebody is coming from, but you don't know where they are going. So as a business owner, you need to know where you're going. And keep in mind where you're going might change over time
Mm,
by the time you get more knowledge and you get more exposure to
yeah.
the problem you're solving. being still remaining flexible to pivot, but not pivoting just because today the wind blew to the left and so you went to the left. Like
Yeah.
that will also be another recipe for failure. But fundamentally, we need to question our victim mindset. I know now there's so much fun language for it. Oh my gosh, I just have a bit of imposter syndrome. And there's so much fun language for a lot of this stuff that, like, a lot of this stuff that we should not be accepting just because. Like, imagine, like, you had it like back in like when we were in school, like because you didn't feel like it didn't mean you won't go. You will still go with
Yeah.
all the feelings and you will
Yeah.
still see it through. And that will strengthen you the next time you don't feel that way. But these days people are not going through things anymore. Like they're just sitting and stopping at the place it got hard and they're remaining there and they're blaming everything on that thing. But imagine if you just like kept going. That will give you more grit the next time because it will only get harder. Like you will only encounter bigger obstacles as you go. Because if you even think about your growth phase,
Mm,
from baby to where you are now, it only kept getting harder. The exams you had to take only kept getting harder. The milestones kept getting longer to reach.
yeah.
But if you didn't start crawling as a child, you won't be where you were today. If you just said, "Oh, it's so hard. I keep falling every time I try to stand," you will be an I don't know the term they use for that, but you
Yeah.
won't be walking, Sha.
Yeah.
Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think we just need a bit more grit to just see things through. Yeah,
We need a bit more grit to see things through. I like that. I like it
yeah.
because it's so counterculture. Because now, like you said, there's a lot of like cuddling with these, yeah, I struggle with this and I struggle with that. And it almost sounds like it's now cool to be like, yeah, like it was too much stress. I had to just give it up, you know?
Ew, no, ew, stop. Like, I get so irritated when I see people cuddling their weaknesses. I'm
Mm,
like, it's one thing to accept something, but must you stay there? Like, can't you just refuse it? Even let's even start from refusing it. Why are we even accepting these things? Like,
mm.
yeah.
No, Nina, last question because we're running out of time here, and I don't want to take too much of your time. So, I typically like to end the podcast when I have a guest on asking sort of a descriptive question. But for you, I want to go a different route. I want to ask you plain blank for someone who's considering entrepreneurship today, is it worth it? Knowing all that you know, the good and the bad, is it worth
Mm,
it?
honestly, I'll tell you first off, look before you cross. That's the thing. Because if you jump, a lot of people jump into entrepreneurship because they saw somebody's success story. But what they didn't see is like the years behind them crashing out, them just going through stuff, almost going bankrupt, them almost like the struggle. So what I would tell them is first sit down, let me explain to you what I've gone through. Then you cannot decide, knowing all that like you've heard from my story now. Do you still like there was one of my friends that was telling me she wanted to open a business. And I told her, well, oh, I love that you're opening that. But I was just like, as long as you're comfortable with the fact that you're probably not going to make money for the first few years. She was like, oh yeah, she won't make money. I said, no, actually what I mean is that you're going to lose money for the first few
Mm,
years. She said, oh, what do you mean? She was saying God forbid. I said, no, God will absolutely forbid it. No, God forbid it for you. But like, let me tell you, you're going to lose money. And she was like, okay, so is there any way I can do it without losing money? I said, no,
yeah.
like you're going to lose money. Even if you
Mm,
don't lose money at the beginning, you will lose money at some point and it will pain you. And she now said like, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I should gather the money I would lose first. I was like, you can't know how much you will lose. You will lose it. Do you still want to do it? You know. So I think that's where people should think about because that will make them question why they're even doing it in the first place.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I didn't start Soplugged from a place of I want to build a business. I started from a place of I wanted to solve a problem. And that held me down. That is still holding me down till today. So honestly, if you know your why and you know you've heard all these things and you're just like, bad as bad, I will still do it. Fair. Please do it because you'll be able to build a life on your own terms that honestly no other person can give you. But if you're hearing all this and you're just like, actually, I'm not too sure, then 9 to 5 is great. We need 9 to 5 hours. We need
We do.
a lot of 9 to 5 hours because who will I be delegating to if you're not a 9 to 5 hour? Like,
That's right.
so if all of us are business owners, then it won't be a sustainable like society. So honestly, genuinely, if it's from and yes, there's some people that have successful businesses that didn't start from a place of passion and like, but there was something that was keeping them there, So you need to have something that grounds you or someone that grounds you to stay the course. Like I said, you need to stay in the game long enough before you even make any rash decisions of like, oh, this is working, this is not working. And I can say that now because I'm able to look back,
Yeah.
and say, actually, thank God I stayed, you get.
Yeah.
So um honestly, entrepreneurship is only worth it if you decide it is.
Wow.
So somebody else can have my story and think this is absolutely useless. It will have been better if I stayed in career. That's their decision. Entrepreneurship is only worth it if knowing everything, counting all the costs, you
Yeah.
decide it's worth it. Do it, and I'll be here to support you. But and if you decide otherwise, great. Honestly, no
Yeah.
shame.
That's a balanced approach. It's a level-headed kind of, if you decide to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't say when you want, you shall.
Yes, and if you decide to do it and stay in it. Like,
Mm,
don't run like just because. Like, do it and stay in it. Let it be that I stayed and everything still collapsed, but at least I stayed.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome advice.
thank you.
Before you go, I want you to kind of talk. I want you to kind of plug Soplugged. I want you to. I know you guys have a market coming up in June, I believe.
Yes.
Like, could you talk briefly about that?
Yeah, so last year we hosted multiple markets, but this year we're doing it only one time. This is our typically our biggest event of the year. It's all Black owned businesses. And there's gonna be so many things. We're thinking of so many ways to activate the market itself for people that are attending and also vendors that are gonna be selling. We're gonna have a salon in the basement. We're gonna be giving out cash to people that come to shop. We're going to have suya. Like, this is literally the best suya. Every year we bring them from Ottawa because they have the most authentic Nigerian suya in the whole of Canada. There's gonna be so much, like, it's literally a day of just having a great time. It's right at the beginning of summer, so people have not made that much plans yet. And Black Market, if you're launching a business, if you've already started selling stuff and you're just looking to connect with a different audience that are actually coming to buy, because not all markets that people come and they're coming to buy. People just like, sometimes I've actually realized that it's such a Canadian activity to go to markets just to browse. But what I've found is that people that come to Black markets, because of how targeted the promo and the campaigns are, they're actually people that are coming to buy and to shop. They're coming because they know that they will find things that they only find at Black markets. So that'll be a great time for both people that are vending, people that are coming to shop. So if you want to register, please visit our link in bio on Instagram to register. And also, I want to say that Black Market is one of the most cost-effective markets. Like, is one of the cheapest markets to attend as a vendor. So we've made it that way to make it so that you're making money. Like, you're not spending all your money. There's some markets that you pay $1,000 to be a vendor. So, and then how much money are you going to make at the market itself? I know somebody that was at our market last year at the same location. She said that she made 4 times her revenue of what she made in the previous year. So, tooting my own horn and all of that. Back where everybody is supposed to be. If you want to register, like I said, link in bio on our Instagram, and that's at Soplugged everywhere.
Oh, that's awesome, Nina. So June is it 21st?
Yes, June 21st.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So for sure, everyone, you heard it from her. Please go check it out. I'll be there. I actually want to attend as well. So yeah, because I've never been to one of the events, and I'm like, I can't have you on the pod and then not go to the event. I have to be at the event, right? So I'm gonna be making plans to be there, and anyone watching this, listening, you should make plans to be there if you're in the GTA area. But yeah, Nina, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Your story, your journey is absolutely inspiring, and I can't wait to see all the success that Soplugged becomes and encounters in the next couple of years. And I know you're not building this business to sell it, but I'm hoping that eventually we start getting offers of, hey, we want to buy this.
That would be so exciting. Actually, I'm building to sell. I might exit someday. If the business is still doing what it's meant to do, then what am I here for? Like, I actually might exit someday, so I'm
Yeah,
absolutely looking forward to it. And no, thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time.
that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks, Nina. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Till next time. See you on the next episode. God bless.